Hey guys, what's up? It's Danny Max and Keely Lou.
And you're listening to the Coming Out Happy podcast.
This is where we talk about our experiences being LGBTQ, how we're helping the community, and where we are today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Coming Out Happy podcast. We're so glad to see you. Another week. This time is a little bit different. It's not just Danny and I here today. We actually have a special guest, our first guest ever on the Coming Out Happy podcast. Today we have Brieh Logan, host and founder of Queer Talk Podcast. And today we'll be diving into Brieh's story, who she is, what led her to start her own LGBTQ plus podcast. But before we get started, Brieh, why don't you tell everyone where they can find your podcast and your socials, just so they can check you out, especially while they're listening.
Whoop, whoop. I'm so excited to be the first guest. I'm usually used to hosting, but yeah, you guys can find me at Brieh Logan on all platforms, TikTok and Instagram, and you can find my podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Queer Talk, and I have an Instagram that's queertalk.podcast.
Definitely. Perfect. Well, go check her out. I promise you're going to love it. Definitely in for a treat with laughing. You'll catch yourself laughing. People will be like, what are you laughing at? And it's Brieh Logan.
Hey!
We love your podcasts. They're so funny and sometimes just so relevant to what's going on in our life today. Brieh, let's tell everyone a little background of how we met. I think a lot of people, especially during this quarantine, have met through this app. Why don't you share the story? I reached out to you, but how did that go?
So, yeah, if I remember correctly, you DM'd me on Instagram.
I did. I slid into Brieh's DMs.
Yeah, Keely slid into my DMs. Not those kind of sliding, though. It was very professional, very friendship oriented. I'm not just saying that because we're girlfriends sitting right next to her. But yeah, it was super cool. You reached out to me just from like one business owner to another. And wanted to talk about a potential collaboration with us since I had a podcast and you guys have a community of LGBTQ plus folks and are doing a lot of stuff with the community. And I love that you reached out to me because that's what we're both doing, just in different mediums. I mean, now you have a podcast too.
Yeah, now we're talking together on the podcast. See, it all just comes full circle. But it was so funny because I saw Brieh's, and I'm so surprised, because I don't know, it's just like a random person reaching out to you. But I saw Brieh's one of her TikTok videos that went viral. I'm pretty sure if you're on TikTok, you've probably seen it. But Brieh did this hilarious skit video on TikTok with her grandpa. And I just couldn't stop laughing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is hilarious. I got to connect with her. But Brieh, tell everyone about that video. How did that go for you? How did you even get on TikTok? I feel like it's always a question to ask people. Some people were like, I didn't want to get on TikTok, but then I finally did. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. And I have a funny story about it because it's kind of hypocritical. But we'll start at the beginning. So in February, I hooked up with this girl. And she was a TikToker. And she was younger than me. She was like about 4 or 5 years younger than me. And it was just funny. I, met her at a bar. And we were drinking, we're over 21. And we were at a cabaret bar. So we were watching drag queens and stuff like that. And, we're hitting it off, blah, blah, blah. And she pulls out her phone and shows me her TikTok following. Because I think she had around 30 or 35K at the time. And so I don't know if she thought that was an interesting thing. I mean, it was. Don't get me wrong. But at the time, as a millennial who was not on TikTok, I was like, what the hell are you what is that okay, I don't know, what do you want me to do about that? And I didn't say that to her face, but inside I was kind of roasting her about it, and I thought it was dumb, and yeah. It sounded so bad because we talked and hung out, and it was a casual thing for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And so she'd be on it all the time, and I was kind of okay, this is a huge age gap. But then COVID hit. We stopped talking. Then COVID hit, and I was like, you know what? I'll give it another shot. I'll figure it out. I'm really bored, so I downloaded it, got on, found the lesbian in the gay community, just the whole entire LGBTQ community. And I was like, holy shit, this is something I've never seen before. Community coming together like I've never seen before, especially in a time where everyone's so isolated. It was really a great thing for me, and a great thing for, I think, everyone that, was in isolation during that time where, a lot of people couldn't even come out of their homes. And so I started making videos. So I'm like, oh, well, these, women can do it. I can do it too. Yeah. So yeah, I started just making random videos, and I was seeing what was trending and like what I thought was funny and the stories that I could tell through video and doing something funny and maybe connecting with people, maybe making people feel less alone. And I started getting traction, and I remember getting my first 1,000 followers. I was like, if I can get 1,000 followers, that means that I can go live, and then I can connect with people more. And that was kind of my number one thing. And I would go live all the time. I never go live anymore, but I go live all the time, and I would just cook. Like I would cook, or I would be doing something, usually eating, and we would talk about books and movies and queer stuff. And like, I started, gaining a following that way and just really getting a group of people together. And that's when I started talking about the podcast. I was like, I'm going to start a podcast, guys. I'm excited about it. And so I had like these first like loyal fans who were really interested in the podcast getting started and kind of hyped me up about it. Mm-hmm. And so I started kind of like plugging it then. And I finally, got it up and running. And, but before I got it up and running, I think I was at maybe like 40 or 40,000 at the time. And that happened with the viral videos that you were talking about with my grandpa.
Was that the first video you ever did?
So I had one video, and this was maybe a few weeks into posting, that went viral. And it was with, have you guys seen Below Her Mouth?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a bunch of people were getting their roofs done in my parents' neighborhood. Because of quarantine, everyone was home and getting their roofs redone. And so I saw a roof, and I was on my normal walk like I usually do, because I was staying at my parents' during most of COVID. And I thought that was so funny because Dallas was a roofer. So I'm like, that would be hilarious. I'm going to just make a video. It just was quick off the cuff, which before I was doing like very curated stuff. And I just kind of whipped up my phone, and there were roofers on the roof. And I was like, is anyone Dallas? Like asking for a friend, and people fucking went ape shit for it. Mm-hmm. Like, they thought it was hilarious. They were duetting it like as they were Dallas. Like they were asking for a part 2, and it didn't go super crazy. But for me, who'd never hit anything over, like 10 or 20K, I had 100K in a day. And I was like, I made it. I had 100K. Holy shit.
I went viral.
I went viral. And I did go viral, but just on gay TikTok, which I'm all about it. I don't really care to go on straight TikTok all that much. That's where the views are though. But, cause that's what my follower base is. It's gay. So I'd rather stay on gay TikTok, but it kind of hyped me up. So I did a part 2 with another roof, and that got about the same amount. And then I kind of started figuring it out. Like, okay, like original ideas that are relatable to the community, that are funny, will most likely go viral, or like trending content that you can like make your own. Right. And then, so yeah, the one that I did that started going viral, and I started being the CEO of It's a Remix, was I was moving furniture with my dad, and I made him move this desk. It didn't need to be moved. Well, I just thought it was funny. And so it was just like, when your dad wanted a son but got a lesbian that moves all the furniture. Love that. And it was just me moving furniture and saying it's a remix, a 6-second video. And that went to around 2 or 3 million views.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And so I was like, if something's working, if something ain't broke, don't fix it. So I was doing those with my dad, with my grandpa, with my mom, and just little things that like, grandpa didn't have a grandson, but got a lesbian granddaughter that fucking fishes. Yeah. Or that anything that would fit that mold, I did, because I do like to fish. And I played cards with my grandpa, and there's one where I was cooking, with my dad. But the one that went crazy viral was the one where I was moving a birdhouse, because my grandpa was trying to install a birdhouse in our yard. And so it was me holding the birdhouse, and I forget what even the text I put on it, but that one is at 6 million, almost 6 million views. It had like 1 million likes. I finally hit 1 million likes.
Oh my
That was my only video I've had 1 million likes. It's crazy.
That is so. Did you ever tell Grandpa how viral he went?
Oh yeah, they know because I posted it on Reels. Because when we talked about Reels, I only have 3 Reels on there, but they're like it's a remix ones, and so they knew that I was posting them for TikTok. They just didn't see the actual videos until I posted them on Reels because my grandma's on Instagram because she knows how to work Instagram.
Gosh. Did they love it?
Yeah, but she was confused because she thought that I was saying that my grandpa wanted a grandson. And he's like, no, he loves you. Like he wanted a granddaughter. Like it's not. And I was like, no, it doesn't. I don't think that at all. It's just like the trend.
That's so funny. You had to explain it, break it down to Grandma.
Yeah, they were like, we accept you. Like, we this. Like, and they were kind of thought that I was like throwing shade. And I was like, no, I'm not throwing shade at all. Like, and no one thought that either.
When you told them how many views though, and how many people it reached, were they just like amazed? Were they confused? Were they like, what's going on? What was their reaction to the amount of people that video reached?
My grandpa was pretty nonchalant about it. He was like, okay, cool. Like, that's awesome. Like, do you want to do more videos?
Yeah. He was like, all right, I'm in. Just put me in.
Yeah, my grandma was like, oh my God, like so many people, like how are people seeing this? Like she didn't really know like how so many people were seeing it. Like where were they seeing it, you know? But I kind of like talked to her just like on Instagram. Like if you go to the Discover page, that's like basically I hit the Discover page and I was on like everybody's page. So everyone saw it.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, definitely like I feel like trying to explain that to grandparents, like they're so confused. They're like, who sees it? Where do they find it? Does it get dropped off at the door? Like they don't know. So it's like really confusing. I mean, even trying to explain like Facebook to my grandma was like, what is Facebook? What is Facebook? Like she doesn't even know. Even like Uber, like explaining these things that we're so comfortable with and we use in our everyday lives is crazy. But TikTok has been something that like, especially during quarantine, I mean, we've used consistently. I think it's gotten us through most of quarantine too. But you got to meet a lot of really cool people through it too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've met so many queer people, which was one of the things, and I was talking to you about this, that I had manifested. And it had taken me a while since I came out. I mean, I've been out 3 years now. Yeah. And I didn't really have like a solid group of like queer friends. I had one of my childhood best friend is gay. Mm-hmm. But it's not like I had like a set group of like, you know, like 3 or 4 people and stuff like that. And it was during quarantine that I was the most social in the gay community than I ever have been.
Yeah. And that's what you wanted.
Through TikTok. Yeah, exactly. Like if I manifested it, I just didn't realize I was going to get it through TikTok.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And speaking of, little side note, we actually just did a podcast on Queer Talk. And I think the title is Law of Attraction. So you better head over. We did talk about a couple good things that you manifested, especially in Thailand. So definitely go listen to that. You'll want to hear Thailand. You'll want to hear the Thailand story. So head over there and listen to that. That was a good story. I was like thinking about it even after the podcast. I was like, how did she do that? So,
girls in Thailand. I swear to God, I manifested the shit. I thought so. I had so many gay thoughts that just were reeling, and it finally manifested itself in the weirdest, most random, but like most great thing that had ever happened to me romantically at that point.
So cool. Oh, I love it. And for you, like after getting, you know, all those views and after seeing that people really enjoyed your content, is that what I don't know like your history with podcasting or if you've ever done that before, but did it give you the confidence to like really put yourself out there and be like, you know what, I'm going to go create this podcast?
Yeah, it really did. When I first came out, like I did not have very high self-esteem when it came to being out and proud and being myself. Yeah. And it was really hard. I went through a depression where I went to therapy, and I was at a really low point, which was interesting because I had started dating my first girlfriend at a few months before I kind of went downhill. So it, I had fallen in love and it was great, but I was also moving into my own place, not my own place, but I was moving out of my parents' house, looking for a job, because I had just gotten back from Thailand. So I spent the summer at my parents'. And I was kind of in this huge transitional period where my job was uncertain. So my financial stability was uncertain.
Right.
I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I was still uncomfortable about being gay. I had so much internalized homophobia about it. Like I was inexperienced, which everyone's inexperienced at some point when it comes to that. But like with me personally, like I wasn't into men, but I still wanted attention from them. So like I had boyfriends and I like would mess around and stuff, but I never really I never had like actual like penetrative sex with them until it was literally in Thailand. It was after I graduated college.
Yeah.
I like avoided it like the plague. And I said like anything I could. Like I when I was younger, it was religion. And then it was, I'm going to fall in love with someone and then I'll have sex. And like, I never had that. I never fell in love with anyone.
Yeah.
And then when I got into college, there was way more pressure in college. I never felt that pressure in high school, but I really felt it in college with just, playing soccer and being around a lot of, like, I guess alpha women, and they were all like super sexually active, which is great. That's what you're supposed to do, or what a lot of people do in college, not what you're supposed to do. But it's with the norm to, have sex with a lot of different people and strangers and have crazy stories. And I never did that. And I always was like, oh, I'm too picky or all this or this. So there's always something.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like kind of like a prude. And I kind of got put in that category with some more of like the religious people, which, hats off to religious people. I just wasn't religious. So I didn't feel like, I was like, I'm getting lumped in with people who are doing this based on religion and I'm not.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was a person who was like a sensual being. Like all of a sudden I just felt so repressed, like I couldn't break out. Like I wasn't a prude, but I was showing prude-like behavior, obviously, because I wasn't like putting out. And it was crazy. I think I'm fortunate enough to have dated guys who were actually pretty decent guys. So they like didn't pressure me. They didn't have this, and that and stuff. But yeah, I definitely felt that pressure. And it was one of those things where I almost was like, had a friend who was like a good friend of mine who was attractive. And I was like, God, like, I think I'll just get it over with him. Like, I think that'll be nice. Like, it won't be what I had expected or what I wanted when I was younger, but like, at least it'll get fucking people off my back about it.
And it's like, it's hard. Like our society, puts a lot of expectations on timelines and when you should be doing this or that. And it's like, it makes us feel like we're not doing enough or like it's not the right time. And it just like doesn't feel good. When the truth of it is that it's at everyone's own time, and you waiting till later, it was just in your journey, So no one should feel bad about, waiting and, maybe it's not right for them and that's okay. The right person will come along. And like you said, maybe it was you getting out of your comfort zone. Like you had to put it out there that you wanted to date people and you wanted to do that. And sometimes when we like are maybe afraid to get hurt, right? That's like a big thing. We're afraid to get hurt. We don't want to put it out there. It can be really hard. But do you feel like what was like that breakthrough moment where you started to have the confidence? Like just from knowing you on TikTok and like having conversations with you, like I would have never guessed you struggle with confidence because you're so confident and like hearing you talk on the podcast and your TikToks, like it's like, I'm like, I don't even see that side of you. But when was that breakthrough moment? Was it when you started doing TikTok or was it after college? When was that for you?
That's a good question. Thank you though. I really appreciate that. I do feel like I'm in a place where I'm confident with that, which is nice. And it was a slow journey for me to figure out my sexuality. I came out to just myself when I was 21, but I had curiosities and I knew I had curiosities. And I was like, okay with the curiosities as long as they were just physical. Because if they're just physical, it doesn't mean that you have to change your lifestyle, right? Like I always thought, I have, maybe I'll just have sex with a few girls, get it out of my system. and then I'll be back on the heterosexuality journey, and I'll have kids and a white picket fence and a husband, and like it'll be fine. And you know, I always thought, oh, like I could kiss a girl, but like couldn't do anything below the belt.
Just try
and
figure it out.
yeah. And I remember at the beginning of college, and I was like, oh, because you don't have to deal with any of the, you know, otherness and all of the, oh, gay people, right? You don't have to deal with any of that because you don't identify with it. You're just like, oh, I just have that. So then once I got to the point where I was like, okay, like this is more than that, because I started like having crushes and like letting myself have crushes, and it was emotional. And then I started seeing, you know, marrying a woman, and I never really saw marrying a man. It was just kind of like a vague, but it was never really a deep thing. And so I realized that it wasn't deep, and this was, and then I was like, oh, fuck. And then I didn't do anything for 2 years after that. Like this was my junior year, and I didn't do anything with it, and graduated. I'm college. I moved to Thailand. I needed to get the fuck out. Sorry, you're not allowed to cuss on here.
Go ahead. This is real raw talk.
Okay. But yeah, it was once I left. Like I left my hometown. I left everything that I knew. I moved by myself. Not saying that you guys should do this, listeners, but it's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Then I finally started coming out. Like I needed to leave and meet a bunch of random new people in a random new place, thousands of miles away. And to get the courage to come out to my gay best friend who's been gay for 5 years. And she's my childhood best friend. And I still was nervous to tell her over text thousands of miles away.
Wow.
But that was the start of it, was telling her. And of course she was cool with it. And she wasn't like waiting for me. She just wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
You know, she was like, I could see that. Like, I'm not surprised. You're an open person. And I was like, okay, cool. And I didn't tell anybody that I was teaching with in Thailand. But when I came home, I told my best friends. And then again, I didn't even like plan to tell them. I had just been thinking about telling them. And we had a couple margaritas, and I just broke down. I down. I told them. I was shaking. It was crazy.
Yeah.
They were super supportive. My one friend kind of was the same way. She's like, I could see it. Like, and my other friend was like really blindsided, but like very supportive. She was just like, did not see it coming.
Yeah. And when you started to like say it for the first time out loud, is that when you really started to feel, you know, more confident in yourself? Was it like you started to learn more things about yourself? Was that kind of your breakthrough moment when you told your gay best friend?
It probably was. I've had a couple surges of that. And like, once I told everyone, I got, you know, my friends out of the way, and then my family by the end of the summer. I mean, this took like a year to finally come out to everybody. Because I wanted to tell my close family before I dated, because I was always afraid that they would find out through other people if I was dating, and then they would feel like disappointed, like that I couldn't come to them, or that they didn't know it and they were like embarrassed by the community or whatever. So I forced myself to come out to them, which, you know, it wasn't an amazing coming out, but it wasn't a terrible one. Like my parents are very accepting. I think they just didn't know how to like handle that.
You never showed signs, right?
No, I didn't. And my parents were very like, did not see it coming.
Have we talked about this before, Brieh? Because I know you played soccer. I played soccer. Did you ever like feel, I know you said you came out to yourself at 21, but like when you played soccer, did you ever feel that like being around girls all the time? Like, what was that like for you? Were you uncomfortable? Were you like agreeing that, I don't know, that you thought you liked somebody, like you liked a guy and they were like talking about it too? What was that like for you?
Oh my God. I played college soccer, and when I look back, there are so many signs that I thought were signs that I was straight, but they were not signs that I was straight. They were signs that I was a raging homosexual. And one of them is taking group showers. So like, you know, when you're at away games, you take showers when you're at away games. And I mean, I was 19 and I wasn't, you know, super sexually experienced. I just like fooled around, but I wasn't like comfortable with my body. I didn't know how like things worked,
Yeah.
and I thought it was because of that, and because I had a conservative upbringing, that I was weird about naked women being around me.
Yeah.
And I was weird about being naked myself, because I would just wear a sports bra, and wouldn't even I would wear my spandex, but I got a little cheeky and decided to just wear my underwear. Oh God. When I would
Annie.
be in the shower. I know, it's crazy.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
such an open person.
Just like changing into your like jersey and stuff. I was like, and I would like turn into the locker, like just uncomfortable.
That's how I was in my first experience being in the showers with people, and like everyone was totally cool with it. Even like the new freshmen who had never encountered this, probably maybe like in high school, but I never did it in high school. Were totally fine. Stripped down, your older girls are used to it, so they're just like head to toe, whatever, naked. You have some people who like will keep their thong on or like whatever. And I was mortified by all of it. I mean, it was too overstimulating. It was I like didn't know where to look. I was afraid to look anywhere. I literally looked at the ground and like couldn't, and I'm not a multitasker either. So like, I'm sure people were talking to me, and I'm sure I was like, they thought I was a fucking weirdo. But I waited until everyone was out of the shower to shower, so that I could have time to myself. Like just have time. We got to be back on the bus, 4-hour ride.
Yeah.
And out comes, and I love this girl to death. She's awesome. I thought everyone was left, and she fucking comes in as I'm trying to, do stuff. She's butt ass naked. She's having a conversation with me. She goes right next to me in the shower. She doesn't go to another one.
Oh,
she goes right next to me.
It's just you and her.
Right there. And she's so nice. And she's like, how's it been? How's,
oh
this
my
was a
God,
sexy game. And she's just like, like doing this. And I literally am like, okay, I'm just going to like stare at the floor and talk to you. But that feels weird. Because that's not a good social thing. You want to stare people on the face when you're talking to somebody. But I was like, I can't do that because you have boobies. So I'm going to stare at the floor. So I stared at the floor. And it was the most awkward thing I've ever done. And she was totally cool with it. I think she laughed if she heard the story. But, and probably like apologized if she made me uncomfortable, but it wasn't her. It was me all along.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of how it was. And I was
going to say, like, I feel, it's so interesting how all of our coming out stories are so different. Like, you were looking at the ground because you were like, I don't know, like, you didn't even really know. But me, I was like afraid people were going to think that I was gay if I looked at them. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, because I was, and I knew that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I got to look away. Like, I got to go somewhere else. But you were just like looking away because you were uncomfortable. And you're like, oh, this is awkward.
Yeah.
So that's so
well,
funny.
I like had those things too, where I was, even before I knew I was gay, I still didn't want people to think I was gay.
Yeah.
Which was such a gay thing to think. Like, even though I didn't know it, like, I don't think, like, straight people who are really straight don't go around being like, oh my God, people are going to think I'm gay. Because they're confident in their sexuality because they're straight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's why, like, straight, like, usually, and it's not just conservative people. Like, if you're naked, you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would be like, if I was in a locker room with men who were showering, and let's take all the predatory stuff out of it, rapey stuff out of it. Like, if it was just like men and women are equal, and I was in the shower with a bunch of men or whatever, and I walked in and I had all my clothes on, but I would be like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just so interesting. I love when we were talking about that. I know the first time we like connected, we were talking about soccer and just like our experience. I think it's a whole different experience. Being gay and being on a sports team is like, it's just, it's unmatched, you can't explain all the things that you go through. You're like, you're always with the girls, and it's like, I don't know, it's an uncomfortable thing, but I was glad that I was glad that I knew, but at the same time, it made it even worse because I was like always afraid people were going to find out, but I don't know.
Yeah. And especially on a team, I was afraid of that too. Like, there were a few times where like I had a crush on someone, not on my team or anything. But I wanted to tell one of my friends who was on my team, and I was afraid to tell, not that I didn't trust her not to like say anything.
Mhm.
But in case if it on accident something slipped out, or when you're drunk, or like something very unintentional that would just ruin me.
Yeah.
That's what I was afraid of. I was afraid of it unintentionally, someone fucking it up and not realizing how important it was, or just literally just flat out just fucking up, and then my whole world, and then everybody knows, and then I would have destroyed me at that time, because I was so I would have probably denied it to my core. I know I would have. I would have gone to my grave denying it. But it would have destroyed me. I mean, I probably would have quit. I mean, I did quit, but I would have quit early. I mean, I would have completely just fucking went off the rails. I completely know that.
Yeah, no,
sure.
It's I think one of the worst things, like, being in the LGBTQ plus community it's something, a really, really big struggle is when you're not out being outed. That's something that I know a lot of the members are concerned about. Maybe they tell a close friend, they're like, I don't want my family to know yet. And it's like, it's such a hard thing. Like, even thinking about it, I was personally outed in high school at a private, Christian, very conservative high school, where I thought I was going to get, kicked out. I was thinking about all these things, and that's one of the worst feelings. Even thinking about it brings a little bit of anxiety and PTSD back to all that was, because it's like your identity, like, that's not something anyone should share. And I feel like people just maybe don't understand how important it is to us, because like it's a really big thing that we had to like go through and figure out, So I don't know, it's a definitely I don't know, for you, were you ever afraid of like being outed?
Yes, which is why I didn't experiment with anybody until I was actually ready.
Really? Because you like didn't want anyone to find out.
I didn't want to like literally do anything. I didn't want to explore any part, because I was so afraid of what people were thinking of me. So I just didn't do anything for a long time.
Oh my God.
Me too.
Yeah, it's scary. And I was just laughing at like your shower stuff. Like I remember being in high school and looking at the floor when I was walking past like all the lockers, of girls changing, because I was like, I didn't know I was gay yet, but I was uncomfortable, and I thought it was like the same as you. Like I thought I was just uncomfortable like with myself, and I just didn't want to make anybody else uncomfortable without like really understanding the meaning. And I now realize like what it actually was, because like a straight girl wouldn't care, and they would just be walking around looking everywhere and know they weren't making anybody uncomfortable, but we all have very similar struggles in that.
But it's so, and I think it's, for the people listening that maybe aren't out yet and are still going through that, it's really cool to look at it now, because look back to where you were and now look at where you're at today, like hosting a podcast called Queer Talk, right? So it comes full circle, and we work through these things. And, I never pictured myself coming out. I mean, I never thought I could do it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be okay. I'll find a guy. It doesn't matter. Like I can't tell my parents. Like that was my biggest fear. And now I'm like helping people come out and like teaching it and doing all these things. And I could have never imagined this. So it takes some time, and we all have gone through it. We've worked through it. But it's really incredible on the other side. And you'll get there, whoever's listening. And if you're feeling this right now, you're like, you know what? I feel stuck. Just let it happen. Everyone, it happens. And I said this earlier, it happens at your own timeline, your own pace. And you don't have to feel rushed that you have to be out at a certain age. It just happens when it happens for you. And you're perfectly valid and healthy just as you are, no matter if you're out or not. So, but yeah, that kind of leads into what I wanted to talk about with you, Brieh, and that is, if someone is feeling like they are ready to come out, what advice would you give to them? What is your like big thing, maybe something you've learned, something you tell someone that's like, you know what, I want to come out and I'm ready to take that step. Of course, if they're safe and they feel comfortable.
Yeah. I'd say biggest piece of advice when you're doing it is, and you're ready to come out is, for me, I always need to have a plan. So I like made a plan of action, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start with my friends, and I'm going to build up that confidence that I'm going to get, because normally your friends are a little bit easier than your family, but whoever you think is going to be easier, it's almost like, peeling an onion. So whoever's on the outside all the way to the end. And so I did that, and it kind of gave me the fuel to keep going. So like I came out to the safest person, which was someone who was already gay and who's known me since childhood. Then I came out to my straight best friends. And then I came out to a few more. And then I came out to my sister. And then I came out to my mom and dad. And it was over the course of several months. And it was, it felt good, but it also, it gave me the confidence to kind of keep going to get to my goal, which was to come out to my parents so that I could date. Now, some people date before, but my weird brain was like, I need to be out to everyone.
Yeah.
And then I can, everyone that I wanted to be out to. So just my close family and close friends. And then I'm going to date. And then, I didn't care to tell anyone else. I didn't have a conversation with my grandparents. I was just kind of like, hey, mom and dad, you can tell them, you can tell the rest of the family, and then I'll see them at a family function, and then we'll build from there. I was so exhausted that I didn't want to do anymore. But that's what I would say is, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're not sure how to go about it, kind of have a plan of action and just take it one person at a time, knock out the first, knock out the second, knock out the third until you get there. And then it doesn't become as overwhelming of a thing.
I absolutely love that. Coming out, I love that analogy. Coming out like an onion. Maybe that'll be the title. People will be like,
what?
What?
The first until you get all the way there. There
Coming
will
out
be
as
tears. There will always be tears.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, see? I love that. Just like the onion does. No, for sure. That's great advice. And anyone listening, it definitely takes time, and you will get there. I promise you. And the LGBTQ plus community is so amazing. I think we've all just found that in each other through, TikTok and, all the members that have joined Coming Out Happy. It's just been incredible to watch this community come together through some of the hardest times I think we've lived through. It feels uncomfortable, but it's given me hope for, what this community can do and the power of it. And I'm excited, Brieh, that you have a podcast and you're making, an impact on the LGBTQ plus community. And just before we kind of end off here, I know we want to talk about our event. I won't forget that. But talk a little bit about if someone wants to go check out your podcast, what are they going to get? What's the best podcast to start off on? And just talk about a little bit about that.
Yeah, awesome. So I interview other queer TikTok creators. This podcast has been up for a few months. It's gained a lot of traction, which I'm excited about. So yeah, if you guys are looking for, any advice on coming out, we do questions with the queers. And so I interview, we have back and forth, super fun. And then we answer someone's question that they DM me, and we answer it on the podcast. And so you can get some good advice there about coming out, relationships, things like that. Hear our stories, connect with other TikTok creators. So you guys can peruse and see who your favorite creators are if I've interviewed them. One of our most favorite interviews is with Shay, and it's called Finger Banging Tips and Being Gay in the Army.
Oh my God.
So that's super fun. So some of them are kind of raunchy, sexual, but some of them aren't. They're
They'll
just
definitely make you
wholesome.
laugh.
Yeah, they're
Always
wholesome.
laughing.
But yeah, go check any of them out, read the descriptions, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to Queer Talk. And
so it's
queer.talk,
queer.talk, right? Queer.talk.
On Instagram it is.
Okay. Queer.talk on Instagram, Brieh Logan on Instagram. On TikTok, it's Brieh Logan, right?
Yes.
Brieh Logan. And then there's one more I'm missing. The podcast. Just look up Queer Talk.
Yeah, look up Queer Talk. It'll be a picture of me and a beanie, and it'll say Queer Talk, and it's purple.
Did you draw that? I had to ask you. Did you draw that picture?
So I did a cutout, and I did it on a PixArt. So I did most of it on Canva, and then I took that picture of me in the beanie, and I cut it out, and I pasted it on, basically.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, definitely go check it out. If you guys liked listening to this podcast, make sure that you head over there, listen to the podcast we did on Brieh's Queer Talk. And also, we have an event coming up. We're going to be doing a live Instagram. So you can either follow Brieh Logan on Instagram or Coming Out Happy. We're going to be going live on September 16th at
3:30
PST, 6:30 Eastern time. Don't know what time it is in another country, but I'm sure you can plug it in and find out. We're super excited. We're going to be talking about some fun stuff on the live, just kind of shooting the shit and hanging out with each other. And it'll be really fun. So thank you so much for listening. If you listen to the whole thing, and we can't wait for more podcasts, and we will see you all soon. Bye.